Have you seen the Suicide Squad? The
Uh,
second Suicide Squad
no, I
movies?
didn't see the second one.
So
Just
good,
the first.
so good.
Is it?
Because the first one was garbage. Um, the second
Yeah,
one is
aliens were
it
stupid
was
in
it
that
was
movie.
just badly made. But this was James Gunn, the guy who did Guardians of the
Okay.
Galaxy and
Yeah.
Slither. So much
Ooh.
better. So it's very stylish. It is a really entertaining movie. Very entertaining.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, we'll watch some good stuff. And have you seen Midnight Mass?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Fucking great. Yeah.
That's fucking great,
Oh,
man.
oh. Speaking of, there's a not Midnight Mass, but there's a new Exorcist sequel in the works, and Linda Blair's gonna be back on.
Yeah, yeah, I read that.
So,
Plus, they're bringing back Ellen Burstyn.
oh really?
Who's going to
Wow.
be? Yep, Ellen Burstyn's part of the cast as well. So
Yeah.
I'm interested. I'm interested. I'm
Yeah.
interested.
Did you ever watch this TV series on Fox?
Yeah, that was really good.
Really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was excellent. All right. Well, hey, you ready to get this thing going?
Let's roll, brother.
All right.
You're listening to Heavy Metal Horror. This is Vanek of Vanek and Midnight and Vandalus and many others. See you soon.
I am Montag, master of illusion. What goes up must come down, but not always.
Hey, this is chopped up, and this might be foreign to some, but deal with it and stay heavy.
And you are watching and listening to Heavy Metal Horror. Oh, kiddies. Tonight, we are going to take a trip around the world of horror. That's right. That's right. We're going to talk about foreign horror movies, movies from other countries other than the United States. And I have to say, Chop, so much of the horror that I have really been enjoying as of late has come from around the world. I mean, I love foreign horror movies, and some of the stuff they're doing is just so good, way better compared to some of the garbage that we're cranking out here in the States.
Absolutely agree. I've really been into, especially the last, gosh, I won't even say 5 years, Korean horror, especially some great stuff. Now I've recently got into some real great Indian horror films as well, Indonesian. Of course, we know a lot of Italian films already. We'll have that in discussion because I
Yeah.
broke down this episode and I put it under Italian, some of my favorites, some of my favorite Korean, and some of my favorite Indonesian ones. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, sounds good. Me too. Yeah, there's a couple on here that I know. Most of the things that are on my list are ones that we have seen together, and
Mhm.
so because we have a long, long history of watching movies and just loving the horror stuff together. So I think we're gonna have a lot of overlap here on the list. So, um, yeah, we can go country by country. That's fine. That's how I have mine
Okay.
organized. If that's simple. I'd like to start with France. There's two movies from France that I really like. One we've seen part of.
Hmm. Was the
A movie
one
called Martyrs.
Martyrs?
Martyrs.
Martyrs. Yes, we saw. Oh, yeah, it was brutal.
We never finished Martyrs, so I don't know how the ending
Okay.
goes. But man alive, I just remember both of us in like visceral horror and shock how brutal this this movie is, and
Yeah.
um, but so compelling at the same time. I mean, it is an awfully good movie, but it is one of the most brutal horror films I've seen.
Yeah. You gotta have a strong stomach and you gotta be able to sit through that brutality. Be patient with it because, like you said, the story is compelling, but yeah, the brutality is off the charts. So,
Yeah. And another one from France I like is High Tension, which
mm.
I mean
Oh my
that
gosh,
I know, right? Um,
I forgot about that. And I forgot about Martyrs as well. So I'm glad you're bringing these back up, refreshing my memory. But
yeah,
yeah, High Tension was what a twist too. In the end, it was just, and that's just as brutal as. That's one thing to say. Let's stop up at the top of this. A lot of these foreign horror films are so much more brutal than anything they've done in the states in decades. I mean, we're even going back to, like, let's say, the '70s and stuff with that, with some of the Italian films. it's just off the charts, and it still stands the test of time to this day when you rewatch it. Granted, mostly practical effects, like in all these films, but man, they pull it off without a hitch. And I think that's something to appreciate, something to be said about. I don't know if it's a cultural thing where the brutality is more, I don't want to say acceptable or anything, but it just seems like no matter what country these films come out of, they're over the top with stuff more so than we are here in the States.
Yeah, without it necessarily becoming torture porn,
Yeah,
or a snuff film, kind of thing. It's not like that exploitation kind of, the Herschel Gordon Lewis, which we love,
we love.
but but it's the story behind it mixed with the brutality, and a lot of these films, the story is, you know takes the precedence over the gore, but when you mix the two together, then you have something that's really a truly experience. I think the horror aspect of the horror film, not just schlock or shock, but the true horror. And that's what makes a film for me anymore. It's like, I want to see something that's going to be different and it's going to move me. If I'm
Mhm.
watching a new film. Otherwise, if I'm going to watch something that I'm going to just take comfort in, I'll watch a Universal. Which,
Sure, sure.
yeah, and that's fine. But I think for so long we were closed off to what foreign horror was because the video industry was rather new when we had video cassettes and rentals. It was kind of ancillary, and
Right.
now with access to things and streaming services, you can find all kinds of amazing content out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, what country do you want to go to next?
You know what? I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna go with the Italian.
Okay.
Italian, really.
Italy, there we go.
Yeah, I got first on my list is the classic Suspiria, of course,
Mm,
directed by Dario Argento, 77. Um, what do you say about this? It's basically a giallo film, you know.
yeah, but it's but
It's
it's yes, I
but
agree.
it's with the supernatural, and then of course, it's just some of the imagery and man, the murders and stuff. And I think that's need to be said right off the top. The Italians love their eye horror too. I mean, you know,
There was
it
a
seems like
tremendous amount of very very close up horror with a lot of puncturing and involving the eyes and invasion of the body. A very visceral kind of horror that
absolutely.
that is hallmarks of the Italian gore cinema. I mean, when we think of the like you said, Argento and Bava, and especially Fulci, among others, these are the directors that we grew up watching. And as I got into the giallo stuff and seeing the progression of that, it's just these are the films I know we have both loved tremendously. A lot of the Italian horror films.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Suspiria is first on my list too. I love the color. I love the story. It's a very, very spooky movie too. That's why
It's
I like it.
very interestingly cinematography. The foot photography in it. So it's a definitely a different looking film all to itself. Even out
Yeah,
of all the other Argento films, this kind of stands apart to me
yeah,
in a way.
yeah,
So I agree with you on that. And
yeah. The lighting and the color. Yeah,
mhm,
yeah, definitely.
yeah, that's fantastic choice. The other one, The Beyond, directed by
Hmm.
Lucio Fulci.
AKA
Uh,
the Seven Doors of Death.
yes, 1981.
Hmm.
This one I recall, uh, other than a very loose kind of plot, especially when you get to the end. I don't want to spoil it for our viewers,
Yes.
listeners, but it is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. Now, there's a scene in there. I'm going to spoil it. I don't care at this point. I want, but I got this guy.
Oh, it's
Falls
been
down the
out for
ladder.
over 40 years. I think.
Yeah, I think we're safe. Yeah, if
I
you
think
haven't
we're
seen it
safe.
yet, go see it. But it has, the guy from the library falls off that ladder, and all of a sudden he can't get up, and all these robot spiders, big spiders, are like they're squeaking and stuff, and it's comical, but it's viscerally terrifying and effective, and especially if you have a phobia of spiders like
Like
myself.
you do. Yes.
Yeah, it's cringeworthy. It's hard to watch through.
Yeah.
But then there's other scenes that you just know it's Fulci's gonna, behind it. There are gonna be some unique and brutal deaths, and there's a pacing to Fulci, and when I think when he does these death scenes, they're slower and deliberate. There's a pace that's just it
There's
separates him kind of from the other directors
there's
and
a
and
build
and,
up.
and
There's a build up attention to it.
yeah.
It's a little slower. It's not like Friday the 13th where the hatchet comes down and cuts someone in half, like quick death. No, because you see it coming and you watch it and it's just going in slow motion and the person's reacting slower and slower and it gives you time to pause and to feel it and to wince. And it's very much like Hitchcock, the way he would manipulate audiences. He wanted them to squirm a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think that's exactly what's going on here. It's very effective though, because it's just
Oh,
some of these death scenes. They're like, hey, look, we paid a lot of money for this fake blood. We're gonna like just put the camera on it. We're gonna use
yeah.
all 50 gallons here, kids. you
Yeah.
know?
Just a constant spray going everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I can't agree more on that. I'm going to chime in with a few examples from Italy on my list too.
Okay.
More Fulci. We've got House by the Cemetery.
Oh,
Um, and I hope we would be remiss if we didn't do City of the Living Dead or Gates of Hell.
I have that on my list. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I figured you would. Um,
Yeah.
the scene where the woman is just vomiting up all these guts from the dead preacher, the priest.
Yeah,
Um,
tears in her
yeah,
eyes.
and the sounds are
It's
it just
just
keeps on
constant.
coming like these entrails, man. It's just so over the top and
And
hysterical.
you
Like
can you can see in it too that it's kept on a loop. You can actually see it in the film,
yeah,
like
it
it's
just
just looped
keeps
over
on
and over.
like it just and that's fine, man, because it's so effective though, and it's so disgusting.
It is.
You just embrace it. Like it is delightfully gory and fun. Again, very dark. And again, another movie that's just kind of like the story is a little confusing at times. Like, it's not super
That's
clear.
something
It's
a lot of people said about Fulci and a lot of his movies. They're very thin plots or some
very
confusion.
vague. What if there's symbolism, what's going on, you know, and that's okay. I just
Yeah,
go into it knowing that look, it's going to be a weird fucking trip,
it's
and
going to be gory as hell.
it's going to be
And
your yeah, and I'm fine with that. I think my first real true Fulci gore fest. I think you know where I'm going.
I do.
In 1980,
Zombie.
Zombie. Um, I remember having a Fangoria magazine that had the cover of it, the zombie from the poster on it. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, fuck, I'm buying that. And I'm looking inside and there are pictures of them like sitting around the eating the corpse. I'm like, oh fuck, this is so gory. Just this is disgusting. And I saw it in a drive-in with
Ooh.
the second movie was Blood Beach. So there you
Okay.
go. Yeah, that was horrible. I
Yeah.
think I'd rather watch Two-Headed Shark Attack. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, or Sand Sharks
Yes.
with Hulk Hogan's daughter.
Avalanche shark. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Um,
but
yeah,
no,
zombie.
there's two scenes in that movie, and you know where I'm going with this, that are
Yeah,
well renowned. One is the zombie wrestling the shark
yeah.
underwater scene. It's like ridiculous over it. It's like nobody's ever done that before in film. Nobody's ever attempted afterwards. So that says anything. The other
I
one
feel bad
is
now.
a
They
scene.
probably drugged that shark. That's where I feel
Yeah,
bad
that's
now.
what I
Looking
heard
back
too.
and like
Yeah,
that's what I feel now. But yes, the scene is
yeah,
incredibly inventive.
yeah.
Like, oh, this is awesome. And yes, and the other scene, I'll let you set it up because this is one of those examples of the slow death coming
Oh, the
at
most
your eye.
dreadful.
Yeah,
Yeah, they ladies in this part of the shack, this cottage or whatever. Zombie breaks through like in this door area. She's trying to get away. It pulls her by her hair, but she's turned around somehow, and the wood is splintered. This giant splinter. I mean, one of the largest fucking splinters I ever saw in my life. And the zombie slowly pulling her eye and head towards the splinter. And you can guess what happens. Pop, pop goes the weasel because the weasel go
yeah,
pop.
yeah.
So
She
it
just
pops.
and she's
And I'll
screaming as
tell
it
you,
goes in. Yeah, and just
yeah, man.
screaming,
Oh
cool.
my
Oh, yeah.
God.
And then it
Like
breaks
here's the,
off, and there's this big plank sticking in her eye.
yeah, it's still there
Yeah,
too. I forgot about it. Yeah.
yeah,
So, oh my
horrifying.
God. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
but
really,
yeah, good
really,
choice.
really good. Um, but one of my favorite, and this is not a gory movie by any chance, but the story is great. It's a really creepy movie. Mario Bava, Black Sunday, 1960.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah, yeah, with about the witch. It was just it is
Barbara
really
Steele.
Barbara
Yeah,
Steele,
yeah,
fucking hottie. Um,
yeah.
so
Amazing eyes. She had some alluring eyes, man.
yeah, this is such a well done movie, and it beautifully shot in black and
Mhm.
white, breaking convention at the time, and just totally worth a watch. It is sumptuous. Black Sunday.
Agree. It's known for a classic for a reason, well deserved. So
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
One other one on the Italian list here I had is Demons by Bava Lombardo
Oh
Bava.
yeah, yeah.
85. Not only had a cool fucking soundtrack, it was rocking, a lot of metal bands and stuff on there, but it was kind of unique in its own way because it was like it's like we go to theaters to watch a movie, but yet they're locked in and they're in a movie.
Hmm.
So what happens is this basically this mask, this ancient demonic mask or whatever, scratches somebody, I think a female or something, on her hand. And all of a sudden she starts changing, develops into this demon. And then of course she spreads that on to the others, blah, blah, blah. But man, is that some great practical effects in that. Great soundtrack.
It's actually
And
quite scary. There are some scenes that are
it is,
quite
there is some
scary.
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
It is a true horror. It's not like and it's not schlocky in that it's not just for effect's sake, but there's some genuine scary moments in Demons.
Absolutely.
I like it. It's a really good
I do
movie.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, agree.
yeah.
So let's go on with you, Montag. And what other country are you going to next?
You know, I would like to let's go to Canada.
Okay.
And Canada's got a couple. I mean, they got some good horror up there. But there are two, I think, really fine examples of horror that one of the movies we watched for October. We do Halloween month in October. We watched this in this past year's theme was foreign horror around the world. One is from 2002. It's about a couple of sisters, a couple of girls, and one gets bit by a werewolf called Ginger Snaps. And it's Ginger Snaps is a fun movie. It takes a while to get going, but you see these two girls who are kind of on the outs, and then one gets bit by a werewolf. She suddenly becomes into her own. It's this kind of, it's a very thinly veiled metaphor for sexuality and where she's
And
becoming
then
this very
creature.
sexual.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, a lot
Excellent
of
movie.
yeah, a lot of sexuality in that regard where she turns on and this wolf thing. But I remember just really being captivated by the story the first time through. Like, okay, this is really interesting, and I like these girls, and I just kind of like the relationship they had, and I just kind of liked. You don't often see the horror, the monster,
Mhm.
and from the teenage girls aspect. So I thought that was all pretty cool. And
Yeah,
the other one,
great
oh
choice.
yeah, go ahead, man. Did you have something?
No, I say agree, great choice. I done did forgot about that. I forgot that that was a Canadian film. So that's a great choice. Great pick.
Yeah. And one that you kind of turned me on to, or maybe we watched for a stink bowl, Exit Humanity,
Oh,
of the zombie movie
yeah,
set
yeah,
in it was during the Civil War kind of era, that kind of era. Uh,
yeah.
I thought such an interesting premise. It was, I think the zombies era or the zombie theme has jumped the shark quite a long time ago, but
Sure.
Exit Humanity offers like a nice new take on that the zombie tropes, and it it was really well done for a low budget movie. Again, it's low budget. Both of these movies were low budget, but you don't need a lot of money to make an effective movie. And I think Exit Humanity, if you've never seen it, it's definitely worth a watch.
Hmm. Agreed. Give it a shot. Okay, with that, I'm going to go to one of my favorite countries for horror, Korean horror.
Mm,
I will start off with The Wailing in 2016.
hmm.
Forgive me, listeners, if I get these names of these directors wrong, but Na Hong Jin, I believe, directed it. It's a story basically of this village gets visited by a stranger. All these brutal murders start happening, and they're wondering, is it the stranger's fault or not, or exactly what is his identity? What is there's comedy in it elements, there's possession elements, there's zombie elements, and it brings everything together.
And a police
Fantastic cast.
procedural within
Yeah,
a
yeah,
police procedural, right?
yeah, and it's a fantastic cast of actors over there with that. And I gotta say something too with before I go on with more of the Korean choices I made is the children actors in these Korean films are superb. Like I mean, there's stuff that makes you like breaks your heart, almost makes you cry. There's
Hmm.
stuff the level of emotion that these kid actors, the Korean actors, kids do is just off the charts. So I have to say that right from the
Mhm.
get-go. But The Wailing is one of my first choices. I love it. I loved it so much I bought it. So
Oh yeah, yeah, great movie. I think that's the one thing I've noticed in Korean horror, that there is a lot more emotion being brought into the movies than you traditionally see in a horror film. You know, the horror film is about the monster, it's about people in peril, it's about watching people die. But in most of the Korean horror films I've seen, you care about the people dying. And that's the main difference that we don't have in American horror films for the most part. You just don't give a shit. But
no,
but they make you spend a long enough time with these characters and you get enough of their backstory to realize these are fully actualized characters with a history and things that are important to them. And so what happens to them matters to you as a viewer. And
right.
that's what I really find most compelling about Korean horror. I really
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, I agree. And you get engrossed in that character, and you just like when something bad, it's like you're actually a really good person, and you see it, and you're just like,
Hmm.
oh, it really hits you differently than you would, like you
Yes,
said, with most of our American films. You're like, I don't give a fuck. You know, like,
exactly. You know, right. I mean, that's a trope of the horror film. Is like the first person you see, first person killed is an unsympathetic character. You usually killed off so quickly you don't know anything about them. You're just happy to see them go. They could be really annoying. Like, fuck, I'm glad she's dead. You know? So right. Um,
you know what? One of the worst things is watching a horror film where you hate every fucking character, and you're just like, I just want to get through this.
right. Can
You
someone just
find
kill them
nothing
all?
redeemable. Yeah, nothing redeemable about these fuckers. You're just like, yeah,
Like
kill
the
them all.
remake of House of Wax with Paris
Oh
Hilton.
God, yeah.
Yeah, you just want them all like and like when I saw Jeepers Creepers, the first time I just those two first characters I thought, oh, they're gonna die first because I hate them. Like, oh no, I slowly realized, oh, these are the main characters. Oh fuck, I'm gonna be sitting there for the next hour and a half with these two douches. Fuck me. Um, right. My first choice from South Korea from this year, 2016, the same year as The Wailing, is Train to Busan, another
On my list.
zombie flick. Yeah, that has a lot of emotion. There are a lot of emotional moments of sacrifice because people are realizing, look, it's not just about the hero doing the thing. It's like this person is, as a family person, has children and knows he's giving up his life because he's got to protect somebody. I mean, those moments, and they're kind of protracted. They take a little while to get there, but that's where the emotion comes in. It's not just that the zombies are trying to get you and you're scared. Like, no, this person is going through, like, you are given enough person and flashbacks of their lives. You are given enough information to realize they know what they're losing. They know what they're giving up. And you know that. You kind of experience their loss.
Yeah, you
And
feel
and
that.
yeah, and adds a depth of your involvement in the movie. And I think that's what makes it so South Korean
Well,
horror
and
so
there's
good.
another example. That little girl, fine Korean child actor. I mean,
Yeah.
she just tears at your heartstrings in that film.
Yeah.
And that is wow, what an emotional and tremendous performance by her.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm. One movie from Korea that I found that I think I don't know if you watched it or not. Maybe I know I did. It was unusual in the fact that it's the closest thing to torture porn that I think that I've seen coming out of Korea. From 2010, I saw The Devil.
oh, it's on my list. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When we talk about Japan, there's one that we'll talk about that's every bit as gruesome. Um, but yeah, I saw The Devil, and I remember. I think did we watch it together? Didn't we? Well, maybe if not, I know
Maybe
we
we did. I think we did at one time.
it very well
But
could
that's
be,
yeah,
but it is just brutal. I mean, it is fucking brutal.
yeah. There's
Uh,
cringeworthy scenes abound in that film. It
yeah,
is rough.
yeah. It is.
But
It is.
I thought was interesting with this one though, Monte, was that it's almost like because you have a serial killer and you have the detective. So it's like this cat and mouse thing. But it's almost like the detective kind of takes on the serial killer's role or has to be just as sick and inventive as him to catch him. So it's kind of role reversible in this film at the same time with all this other stuff going on.
You
Why this
become
chick,
the monster to
yeah,
beat the monster, like the Nietzsche thing.
right. Good,
Yeah.
yeah, good call.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, and to delve into that mindset and to be there, yeah, because it is gruesome and these murders are graphic and it is gory. It is
Unsettling.
yes, yeah, truly. And I remember after the first time I saw it, I'm like, I don't ever think I need to see that again. I mean, there's just no need because It's
It's
not.
hard.
There's
It's a hard
nothing
watch.
entertaining to go back for a rewatch.
Yeah,
You
it is
know.
a hard watch.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Um, Another one I have on my list
Mhm.
is I just saw this on, I think it was on Netflix, maybe about a month ago or something. It's from 2018 called Rampant, and it's
I've seen
directed
that.
by Kim Seong Loon, something like that.
Okay.
But it's set in like medieval times. This prince comes back, kingdom trying to take back his kingdom or whatever from this ruthless emperor who's going on. But there's a zombie outbreak, or you call it a zombie outbreak. They call them demons in the film.
Okay.
And man, they're fast running demons. They're just and there's some magnificent. Well, first of all, the filmography is beautiful on it. The settings are beautiful, and the fight scenes and the battle scenes are fan fucking tastic.
Is
So,
this the one on
uh,
Netflix?
I believe it's
Yeah.
Rampant. Yep.
Yeah. It's on my list. Yes.
Oh,
I
yes.
saw it. Like,
I
oh,
am.
okay. This might be good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when I got through, I'm like, I got to the end, I'm like, what a fantastic film. I was really impressed with it overall. I loved it. So yeah,
Nice.
that's from 2016, and that was on my list.
Nice. One that I know we have both seen from South Korea is 2006, The Host,
On
which
my
is
list.
kind of yeah. Which is kind of like a it's not quite a kaiju movie, but it is about a monster. And it's a big monster, but it's not a kaiju, so it's not like Godzilla big, but it's this monster that comes out of the water. And when you see the first appearance of the creature, it's this tentacled like creature. It is so well shot and so effective as it comes out, because this scene where it's like chasing people and going
Oh,
along the
along that
side of the
that
banks of the river. Yeah, it comes out
yeah.
of the river. So good. Um, yeah, and the story moves on where the monster kidnaps this girl, and that's where the emotional connection comes in.
The whole family go on a search for it and try to, and what they got to go through to get to that point.
Right, and then the emotion of like someone missing, and then thinking maybe the monster's killing her, not knowing she was alive or dead. All these really palpable emotions, but it is an emotional monster movie, but such a good movie.
Absolutely agreed. Great choice. Okay, what's your next country
Oh,
we're gonna
I
go
got
into?
one more for South Korea.
One more. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
2009. This is a vampire movie called Thirst, which we have
I have
seen
not
at
seen that.
Stinkpole. Yeah, this is
What?
maybe I just watched it on my own. This is about a priest who gets bitten by a vampire and turns into a vampire. And yeah, it's fun. It is a really fun movie. There's a little bit of comedy, but about him coming to grips with the fact that he is thirsty,
Huh?
yeah, definitely worth the watch from 2009,
Okay.
Thirst, and
I will check that out.
that'll
Thanks.
do me for South Korea.
Okay.
Okay, so is it up to me now to pick the country?
What country we're going to next?
Uh, we're gonna go to Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're picking a lot of countries. I stuck with three. I could have picked, I guess,
Oh,
many more, and I
I've
forgot
got like
about some of these
15 countries here.
films.
Um, so excuse me. The one that really stands out to me, one of the scariest movies that you and I have seen, came from 2014. Ba ba
Oh,
Babadook.
how could I forget
The
that?
Babadook.
Fantastic
I'm
movie.
getting goosebumps right now because of how fucking scary this movie is.
Yes.
So insanely creepy, and it takes a while to get there, because by that time you feel those frustrations of this mother who's mourning the loss of her husband, and her kid is just acting out in a way that
You want to strangle the fucking kid. I'm
I'm
saying,
not
when
sure
you
if
get,
he's on the spectrum, but he's trying to protect her from monsters. And then they get this book about the Babadook, and this book enters. It's almost like now you see him, he's going to come and get you, and like the more you're afraid, he feeds on your fear, and he just makes his appearances, beyond some shadow and noise, to like physical manifestations, and it is so well crafted and eerily done. um Watched it again this past year, and
yeah,
I mean,
me
the
too.
first time through anything, you're going to be the most frightened. This
Yeah,
time I was watching the construction more, and like, okay, and it still had some creepy moments,
yeah.
but that first tangible experience of the Babadook, totally one of the best pure experiences in terror that I've had in a long time.
Well, there was an interesting dichotomy in that film because it she's dealing with all these struggles emotionally, and she's going through grief, and she's dealing with her kid who has obviously some emotional behavioral issues, whatever's going on there. But then you got this Babadook. It looks like it possesses her, but you're almost in your head going, "Is this just she was slowly going insane anyways?" And this wasn't really a possession from the creature itself. It was her mind that was finally starting to. It was snapping. So it brought up kind of interesting kind of dichotomy, I thought, with that the way it was filmed and the story itself. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think when the one that we came away from it, it was not less about her going insane, and when you realize what she has to do to the for the Babadook, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone. Well, I guess I am gonna. Hey, I'm gonna spoil it. So if you don't want to listen to spoilers, turn away for a minute. Um, when you realize what she has to do, because the Babadook is still alive and she kind of has to feed it, she has to nurture it, and
Yeah.
and all the things that you see her continually having these dreams, and I think that the whole Babadook is her grief. You know, it's a metaphor for her grief and her loss
Okay.
that just consumes her, and she can't ever deal with it. It can't ever go away, but she can kind of keep it at bay. You know, and I
That's
think
very interesting. Very
when
good
I
call.
when I watch it, when you see it again and you see the imagery, you're like the whole thing is it's just her grief. It's the monster of her grief, and when you see it in that context, it's like, oh, okay, but it is terrifying. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Well, great choice.
Yeah, and another fun movie from Australia is 2012, um, Bait. It's a
Oh,
shark movie. Yeah, I this is a really fun movie.
uh-huh.
And I remember I think you told me about it, and it's
Yeah.
about these people who are stuck in trying to get out of a grocery store because you know, there's a tsunami came by, and there's these great white sharks that are like trying to get at them, and it is a very entertaining movie. It's not just like sci-fi channel shark schlock. It's a really really well done shark disaster kind of movie in a genre that could easily go you know go silly, but it doesn't.
Yeah, agreed. That was a good choice. And yeah, actually I think I have a burnt copy of that. Maybe. But yeah, it's
Plausible deniability. I may or may
uh,
not.
uh I don't know. Just ignore that man in the Slayer shirt, what he just said. No, but yeah, it is a lot of fun. I mean, I remember because I rented it and I was like, huh, try it. I didn't think much shark movies the way they've gone, by the wayside so much. But then I was like, wow, this is
They
really
jump themselves.
they did. They did really. And bringing a tsunami thing, an environmental disaster in with the mix as well. That's an interesting take to bring with you're not talking Sharknado stuff, which
No.
is fun, silly, but
Yes.
you're talking actual tsunami that actually draws these sharks and they're
Yeah,
trapped.
it's a
They
lot of
can't
tension.
escape.
It's a
Yeah,
very tense thriller horror movie. Yeah, yeah, certainly.
great.
All right, so there's Australia. Um, what was your next country?
Next one on my list is Indonesian,
Oh, very
and I have
nice.
two choices on this
Hmm.
one.
Okay.
Both scared the shit out of me. First one is May the Devil Take You from 2018.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Directed by Timo Janjanto, I believe, something like that. But actually, I got three on my list that scared me. All of them. May the Devil Take You is about, I believe, a father is in a coma and not expecting to live or anything like that. But here he made some deal with this kind of witch or whatever. And I know the wife of the husband or ex-wife, she's there, but she's a stepmother of this one girl, and all this shit just starts to go wrong. It is supernaturally scary. It's
Hmm.
absolutely creepy. It gets under your skin. And
Super
now they had
creepy
a sequel
moments when
made a
you.
double take.
Yeah,
They had a sequel made a double take you too, which I
it's not
didn't
as
care
good.
for.
It's not as good. The
But
the
this
first
one,
one's really good with the effective makeup and the
oh,
demon like witch stuff, and it's nightmarish. And those scenes are shocking when when the creature shows up. There's a lot of like, you want to sit back in your chair kind of moments, like, oh fuck,
yeah,
like an Exorcist 3. That long
yeah.
haul shot. We're like, fuck.
Oh
There's a
yeah,
lot of jump scares, and it's effectively done. It's not overly done because there is a compelling story, but yes,
yeah.
fantastic movie. We just watched it in October of 2022 for the first time. So yeah, excellent.
That might have been one that did I recommend to you? Because I recommended a couple of them, I think, to
It
you.
was
No?
just on a list. I was doing some research. I knew our theme. I had created our theme of world horror, and so I was just finding. I think
Okay.
you had mentioned it because I had already put it on my list, but you had said, "Oh yeah, it's really good." So yeah.
Yeah, terrifying. Second on my list is The Queen of Black Magic,
Hmm.
2019,
Yeah, really good.
and another terrifier. Originally, it was done in 1981 in Indonesia, and they remade it for this. And I watched the original. And it's like, yeah, I think I prefer to reimagining with this one or remake, whatever you want to call. Um, and what it's about is these group of uh, foster kids go back to, I guess, the patriarch or whatever, foster father there, this foster home is dying, and they go back there to, you know, just take care of things and kind of reminisce and all this. And all of a sudden, there's this, I don't know if it was some kind of, there's evil that was there. I can't recall loose right offhand, but there is some horrific death scenes, and you do get to see this witch in it, and just a thing of nightmares is made of. I'm going to tell you. So it is well worth to watch. It is terrifying, and what another great one from Indonesia.
Yeah.
Last one on my list is uh, Satan's Slaves from 2017,
Oh, I've not seen that.
and this one's about a mother is ill, and the kids are coming, like the daughter and I guess the little boy, um, and basically she passes away at funeral and everything. What they don't know is the mother, she couldn't have children, so she made a deal with a satanic cult so she could have children, but that cult wants to come for the little boy eventually. And it another one that's a terrifier. Some of
Nice.
these can be long in the tooth, some of these can be long burns, but you appreciate the journey. I
Yes.
think that's something that can be said about a lot of this foreign stuff. If you can handle the slow burn, be patient because it does pay off, and this is
Yeah.
one of them.
I agree. I agree. I have no problem with a movie that is going somewhere. I don't mind the journey.
Right,
I'm happy to take that journey. So
we both can appreciate that. So that was
all
only
right.
countries on my list. Now, Montag.
So you've blown your list. So now I've got a shit ton of stuff that I can talk about. You
Right.
might as well just hang up and leave me to go. Okay, well let's go
You've been
to
listening to heavy metal horror.
and Chop Top didn't do his homework. Um, let's go to Sweden. Let's go
Oh,
to
I know.
Sweden.
Duh.
Yeah, duh. Let's go to 2008 with Let the Right One In.
Oh, we
Yeah,
watched that at
we
the theater
watched that
together.
together. One of the best vampire movies you will ever see. And
Ever.
talk about wonderful portrayals. Even the remake, and I generally do not like remakes,
Yeah.
but even the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz
Let me in.
was really good. Yeah, Let Me In, but Let the Right One In. This is a bleak movie that's almost colorless. It's a deliberately paced movie, but there are scenes of absolute brutality, and because this kid's bullied and picked on, and then there's this fantastic scene at the end where you see this beautiful moment of revenge, and like, cause in the swimming pool, I'm like,
Oh, I
oh
know. Yeah.
yeah, it's so
Fantastic.
effective, and again, how many horror films are we going to see here in the States where the horror centers around a couple kids? It's just not going to be done. And like the ones like this 8-year-old vampire, or 10-year-old, or however old she
Yeah.
is, and when she's like sitting on the the playground outside on the sitting outside on the little monkey bars, and she's just like covered in blood, just sitting there, you know. Um, so that's from 2008, and also from 2019, Midsommar, which
Oh
uh,
yeah.
which is a really really intense movie. It is essentially a remake of the type of The Wicker Man, the British horror
Yeah.
film. I think it's very similar
Yeah.
in that regard, but it's a
Pagan
lot more
festival
pagan.
type things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pagan festival, sacrifice, but there's a lot of symbolism in this movie from the get-go, and you don't know what is symbolic until you've watched it all, and you can go back and like watch it, get like, oh, there it is, as any good
Well, and
movie.
it something to be said too, and I know it's been said so many comments and critics say how bright it's just bright the whole time. It's like the sun that it's really no night kind of scenes. Everything takes place, the brutality and stuff, right in broad daylight throughout this
Yeah,
whole thing.
and
And
it
so
is
that was kind
brutal.
of a unique thing. But it is some beautiful cinematography as well
Oh
in
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's very very well done.
So,
Um, yeah, so those are my two visits to Sweden. I think we should go to the island nation of Japan. There's a lot of J horror that we have seen. One the Ringu comes to mind from
Oh
1998.
yeah, watch that with you. Yeah,
Yes, yeah. Well, the first time I watched it by myself.
right.
And there's the scene in the beginning where the girls get the phone call. They watched the videotape, the horror on the videotape, and then they get the phone call, and it's basically this crackling, and they have a week to live. As
Yeah.
soon as that scene was over, because they show the video, the actual like video that the girls watch, so you get to see it too. My
Uh-huh.
phone rang. I shit you not. I'm like, fuck me. I thought, oh
Oh my
fuck, I'm
god.
dead. I got a week. Let me call Chop Top and I can come over and watch it. Um, yeah, Ringu is so effective and creepy and building, and then and that last 5 minutes, the scene where the girl comes out of the well, just
Mhm.
fucking disturbing. How
Yeah.
they shot that, and just every bit as disturbing as the spider crawl in The Exorcist. Like fuck. You just it is really really good. Um,
And here's a surprise, kids. It's much fucking better than the American. So
yeah, don't
do
even
yourself
bother.
a favor.
Yeah,
Don't
don't
even
even
bother.
bother. Yeah, don't even bother with that. Ruts, yeah, don't even bother. Another really silly. This is like a silly horror film. It's equal parts. From 1977, House or Hausu. About these group of girls from high school. They get together at this house, and essentially the old woman there is a witch. She's like the grandmother, and she's a witch, and she wants to gain powers. And she gains powers by killing the girls, but the house starts doing crazy things to kill the girls. Like the piano comes to life and like eats the girls' fingers, and
Oh wow.
the house like comes alive, and it becomes there's like animated sequences. It is a really trippy movie, very wacky and psychedelic, really, really, but fun. It is
Okay.
horror, equal parts horror and absurdity, and a little bit of comedy, and just playful moments where like a head's floating around, a disembodied head, and just like just
What's that
really
again?
bizarre.
It's house spelled like
House
house.
night, yeah, house or Hausu, Hausu is the
Okay.
Japanese, the American Japanese spelling. 1977, yeah, definitely want to watch that. That's
All
fun.
right.
Others from Japan that we have seen, Ju-on or The Grudge
Mhm.
from 2004. I'm just going to name them, we don't have to talk
Much
about all
better
of them.
than the American
Yeah,
again.
again, yeah, they're just stop trying to remake these
Yeah.
movies. They're just
Ex-
jealous, because hey, fuck, we didn't do anything that good. We probably should, let's rip them off and remake them. Um,
Like fuck. Our foreign brothers and sisters are more creative than what we're fucking doing here in the last 50 years. I can't believe it.
yeah,
Yeah.
hey, I'm all for it. As long as
Hello.
we get to see the
Yeah.
good stuff, I'm fine with that. Another really tremendously fun movie has its elements of horror and gangster, and kung fu and martial arts and just killing. Versus from 2000.
Oh man, yeah, I watched that with you. That was fantastic.
So good.
Fun.
Yeah, we're gonna take some guys out. We're gonna do a mob style, execution out in the woods, and then, oh, guess what? These woods are haunted. All these like dead people who had been killed. They're like zombies and stuff. Versus is tremendously entertaining. Just balls to the wall fun. Um, Another one, Kwai Dan from 1964, which is like a ghost story, a series of vignettes that tell the different stories. It is like the night gallery but it's beautifully shot, gorgeous, gorgeously movie, evenly paced, spooky ghost stories. Kwai Dan, Kwaidan, 1964, definitely worth a watch. And the gory film that I had mentioned before about the Korean horror film, Evil Dead Trap from
I
1988.
if I was gonna I wish I would have brought more countries on my list,
Yeah,
but that was gonna be at the top of mine. That was nerve shattering. And Montag, just describe to the folks what exactly that movie, just a basic synopsis, what that was.
I think it's a news crew going. They're on a hunt for a serial killer, right? Someone's doing murders,
Well,
right?
they were trying to
Isn't that
see
what
if
it
it
is?
was like they got a video sent to their because I watched this again not too long ago,
Okay, I've
and
only seen it the one time when we watched it, so it's been a little while.
they give they sent a videotape. Somebody sent a videotape to the news offices. They watch it and they're trying to determine. They know the location basically, but was this a snuff film or whatever or not? And they wanted to kind of disprove or see is that person still alive or not. So they go there. This whole news crew. And yeah, when they say Evil Dead trap, there's a lot of traps and there's a lot of brutality and it is nerve shattering. It
Yeah,
is terrifying. So
right. It's unpleasant. It's a
it
good
is.
movie.
It's
It is
hard to watch.
really good, but it is hard to watch. And then you see these movies like Saw 3, which are, just torture porn, but where I think they had to borrow a lot in part from movies like Evil Dead Trap,
Yeah,
to get
you
that.
have to be influenced somehow to,
Yeah, yeah,
because it's basically you get kind of that same feel, that same vibe
yeah, yeah.
with everything.
Next, we are going to go over to Spain with a movie by Del Toro, 2007, The Orphanage, which yes, I think is a fantastic movie. Really a good spooky ghost story here, and it is so well shot. I love Del Toro's movies anyway. I mean, he's just so good at everything he does,
He's got a
and
style that really stands alone from a lot of other directors. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. And this is again, I'm hesitant to spoil too many things, but it's a ghost story set in an orphanage, and it deals with a couple, whose son is missing. The child is gone suddenly, and like, where's the child? So you have this missing child. Perhaps this child's murdered. Is this child spirit that we're seeing? There's a ghost, and there's this history in this orphanage, and it has a quality to it that there are some genuinely spooky moments, a lot left to the imagination, like sound effects are used just like in The Haunting, and it's so very, very well crafted.
Great, great choice.
Yeah, yeah. Next, a movie from Iran, 2014, A Girl Walks Home at Midnight.
I've heard
One of
that
the
title.
most stylish horror films I have seen in a long time. It was Iranian and American. It was shot both places, but the director
Okay.
writer is Iranian, and the main actor. It's set in Iran, and
Okay.
it's about this girl who walks home at midnight. She's a vampire, and she strikes up this relationship, this friendship with someone else. They're doing some skateboarding and stuff, but there are moments where these beautiful shots linger and linger, and like it's the slow down of the scene that it is deliciously deliberate, incredibly stylish, really, really effective. We actually talked a little bit about this on Insane Radio. Yeah, it was such a good movie, well worth the watch and repeated watching. It is every bit as good because it is like an art film. It is like beautifully, shot in black and white, and a lot of it scenes of an industrial, like kind of breakdown. Um, and yeah, so good.
Oh, I've got that on my list too. Thanks.
Yeah, worth the watch. Um, since now we're going back to Asia, we are going over to China with a Chinese ghost story,
Oh,
and which is it is while not horror like terror, it is a ghost story, but it is beautifully shot. It's like set in like feudal China. The
hmm.
costumes are really gorgeous. The sets are sumptuous. And what we have is a man falls in love. He's out in the woods and meets this beautiful woman in his gown and falls in love and finds out that she's a ghost. And the
Oh,
difference in Chinese ghosts, there's like a hierarchy. So there's always someone, like if you see a ghost around, that ghost typically has someone over top of that person who like commands that ghost, like another ghost or another level of spirit that
yeah.
has control or can manipulate that ghost. So it's really about this kind of a almost like a love affair, a supernatural spiritual love affair. Gorgeously shot, sumptuous. Yeah, Chinese
Wow.
ghost story. There are three of those. Definitely worth the watch. I would cautiously throw Mr. Vampire in as well, but that's more of a comedy with a
Okay.
horror. Mr. Vampire is about vampires and the undead. The Chinese vampires are different than Western vampires, where they hop. There's the hopping vampires.
Oh, happy.
Hopping vampires. Just read the hopping vampires. So basically, they're when a person dies, they have to be given rituals and prayers and a prayer sheet put on their head. And if something happens that disrupts that prayer, they come back from the dead. And the earth is repelled by their uh, energy that it tries to push them away, but then gravity pulls them back down. So they hop. Um, yeah, just fun.
Unique.
Yeah,
Fun.
really fun. We're going to go over to Ireland for the next one. and a movie that you and I both have watched for Stinkbowl, and we both loved very much. Very creepy and a slow burn to the end. The Canal.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, this is
very
about it.
surprising.
Yeah, this is the guy who he finds some. He's a film editor, and he finds some like film that he's editing from an old time, look like film that he's seeing from perhaps a murder, but he realizes that the setting is pretty close to where he's living. Or then he finds
Mhm.
film that says, "Oh, this might have happened here." That the person who lived where I was living. Maybe this is dealing with this person's death, And then things happen when he starts watching the movie. There's this element where the things that are happening on the film start happening in his life, and really creepy,
Yeah.
ghosty
Art
stuff.
imitates life, life imitates art, kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's really super creepy. Like when something is on like on the TV, like for Ringu and they come out into reality. When something is
yeah,
on film and then they come out of that like film into reality, that's always creepy to me. Yeah, Canal is a really good, very dark movie. Um, but
very somber.
yeah, somber. It's well worth it. Well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, I would be remiss, Chop, if we didn't talk about the movies from the United Kingdom.
Oh,
The Hammer horror
yeah.
films.
Yes.
Oh, we love Hammer. We talked extensively about Hammer to King Fowley.
Mm-hmm.
Hammer and Amicus. King Fowley is from the singer from Deceased, and he is a huge Hammer and Amicus fan. So movies like The Mummy, The Curse of Frankenstein, The Horror of Dracula, those are all really excellent,
Yeah.
uh, excellent movies. Um, we've grown up watching Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing. I mean, that's like the fabric of our childhood right there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Can't say enough about it.
Yeah. Other movies from the UK that have 2017's The Ritual. Seen
Oh
that?
yeah, that was on Netflix.
Yes, about the friends going
That was
hiking, and
I was surprised with that. Yeah, that was nice.
that is really good.
Yeah.
Such a good movie. Yeah, got this pagan ritual, this mythological monster in the woods kind of thing. Really, really well done and very spooky at times. Definitely good.
Agreed.
Another film that's technically, well, it is shot in UK, An American Werewolf in London. That's
Oh,
a British film. Yeah, I
classic
mean
John
that's
Landis. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's American and British, but yeah, but they filmed those parts. There were some parts in there, so we love that film. Another one of our favorites that we have seen and I will watch, and it is right here. I got the poster. Night of the Demon,
Oh my
1957.
God. Yes.
Yes, one of the
I
best
could I
horror
never
films of
I
all
could
time.
watch that over and over and over. I never
Yeah,
sometimes I had it on repeat when
yeah.
time
Just
just
let it play. Like that and the Monolith Monsters. I can just watch it every day.
right on.
Night of the Demon or the Curse of the Demon as the American version. Night of the Demon's a little bit longer, like 12 or 14 minutes longer. If you get
Yeah.
that version, definitely worth it. The 12 minutes are nice to have because it's one of those stories where you enjoy the journey. It is such an effectively done film. The performances are great. You get this weird like shots because of like distortion where the
Yeah.
effects of the magic or the spell are taking their toll on our main character, and it is just a creepy movie. And the
And the
demon
demon it's yeah, I was just gonna say, go ahead, Montag. The
goes,
demon itself
we
is
could you,
it's
yeah, you can see him
terrifying.
right
You got
there.
me scared. Yeah, you're
Yeah, it's
scared.
yeah, it's a very feline looking demon. And I know the director, Duner, did not want to put the demon in there, but the studio made him do it. But I'm glad they did. I
Thank God.
like, yeah. I remember seeing this the first time I saw this movie. Our library used to have like 8 millimeter movies. And my
Mhm.
cousin came over, and I was probably 6 years old, and he'd bring the projector over, and we put up a sheet on the wall, and we were showing these like little, Super 8, like 6 minute movies, silent for the most part. It's where I watched like Godzilla versus Monster Zero. Well,
Yeah.
Curse of the Demon was one of those movies, and the scene where he picks up the guy and like was shredding
Right.
him, that was in there. So my 6-year-old sensibilities are watching this demon going, "This is fucking cool." Except I didn't know the word fucking, so I'm like, "This is so scary and cool." Um, yeah, Night of the Demon, great. And two more that I know you've seen both of these. 2002 Dog Soldiers.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, well,
Not enough praise on that film.
yeah, Dog
Wow.
Soldier, another fantastic throat movie, werewolf movie, and military, and against the werewolves, really, really effective. Great looking werewolves. Some of the coolest
Exactly.
looking werewolves you will ever see in
Some of the
any.
best practical effects you'll ever see. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
those werewolves were fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the best, I think, most effective horror films. I think it's on the probably the top 20 maybe of all time as far as just how creepy this movie still ends up being because it hits you on different levels. It's a movie that's going to make you feel rather claustrophobic. Things are closing in on you. The Descent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not going to want to go in the cave, and explore.
Ever again.
Yeah. And I remember
No.
watching this with my grandma, and she loved horror films. She couldn't find anything too scary for her. She's like, I told them girls not to go in that cave, That's right, Grandma. Um, yeah, and we both like Juno. There was a I'm like,
Yeah.
but it's a
Something
great
about
movie.
her.
Girl,
Yeah.
yeah, these girl friends go and explore this new cave system, and there are monsters in there. But even without the monsters, it is still effective and frightening because as one who, not liking tight confines and not really wanting to go down into a
Ew.
cave, I'm like, no, no, I'm good. I'm okay with that. But these monsters are really creepy. And there were two movies, The Descent 2, which I think is every bit as fun as the first one, and gory. These movies are gory, super gory. Um, and that takes us through my movies I want to talk about from the UK. Um, let's go to Norway with a movie that also has at least two. When you have, I think to make a really good movie, you just need to have some dead Nazi zombies. This is Dead Snow from 2009.
Yeah.
A wildly entertaining war movie about
Nazi zombies.
Nazi
Yeah.
zombies. I mean, what more do you need to know? You have Nazi zombies and people getting shot and all the beautiful scarlet blood on that white snow. It's over the top. It's just excessive, but
Comedy.
it is a lot of humor. And I think that's what saves it. It doesn't take itself overly seriously, and that's what makes it great. It is again
Agreed.
wildly entertaining.
Yeah.
Dead Snow from Norway. Um, we're going to stay up in Northern Europe, and we are going to head over to Finland for a Christmas movie of sorts. But it's not about Santa Claus; it's about Joulupukki, the Finnish Santa Claus, and Santa Claus doesn't have elves; he's got brownies. And this is rare exports from
Fancy.
2010.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah, yeah. Um, because it's not just, I mean, it is horror. There are horror elements, but it's not just horror. There's so much to like about this movie. Essentially, these guys, you know, they catch Santa Claus, and the brownie's like, we're gonna rescue the big guy, and then there's the whole Christmas thing here, but it's funny, it's entertaining, it's wild, again, like over the top, but it is so good.
We watched that as Stinkful too, and we were
We
both because
certainly
the first
did,
time
yeah.
that was the first watch, and we were like, "This is
Yeah.
fantastic."
Yeah, right up there. It was because we did a holiday theme one right up there with Santa's sleigh with Goldberg as Santa
Yeah.
Claus. Yeah. Well, I guess for the people who don't know, Chop and I have done this thing called Stink Bowl for a long time. Essentially, we get together, we eat way too much bad foods, and we watch horror movies all day and eat movies like, chili and things like that, and nachos and all kinds of goodies, and act like 13-year-old boys all day.
Kung
I mean,
Pao chicken.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Smoke cigars, just basically have a good time. Yeah, Stink Bowl, because the first one we had was right around the time of the Super Bowl, and it was our counter to that. So
Right.
yeah, yeah. And since we're in Finland, let's just go a little bit east and head over into Russia. 1967's VIY. We just did an episode on Unsane Radio last year about this. I'd never seen it before. Chop, you've got to see this movie. It is really there are funny moments to it, but it is also has some really creepy moments to it. And it's about a
VYI.
VIY.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's about essentially about like a monk in training, like a priest in training, who gets sent to do this funeral procession or funeral performance for like 3 days and nights, has to be at the side of this dead woman and perform these prayers and things like that. But let's just say she doesn't stay dead. Okay, let's just say that.
Okay.
And it is just over the top and just highly entertaining.
Okay.
Vi, yeah, VIY.
I wrote that down too.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, really good, really good. You could probably find it on YouTube, stuff like that. If not, let me know.
Okay.
And our last movie, our last country, by no means have we covered so much good horror out there, and so many countries. We didn't talk about any Indian horror or anything coming out of South America. We just didn't. We can't cover everything, but we're gonna finish with the last place that might have some of the most disturbing fucking horror movies.
Going.
Yes, yes, I know you too. We are going to Germany. Speaking of dead Nazis, and I think one of the earliest best horror films came out of Germany in 1922. We're going to talk Nosferatu. Let's not
Absolutely.
forget that classic. I mean, that's really Nosferatu is still regarded as a fine example of German cinema, and right up there with like
And basically,
Metropolis.
and I think basically the springboard for all horror to come. I mean, it really
Yeah,
was.
very effective. Those scenes, and then Stephen King used those very visuals when he did Salem's Lot. I mean, it's that
Oh
same
yeah, the
Nosferatu
vampire.
vampire. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Barlow
That
looks
very,
just like.
very,
Yeah,
yeah, very rodent like, you know.
yeah.
But the stuff that Chop and I are talking about, as far as like fucking disgusting, just Jesus Christ. Um, I'm gonna go with two that stick out to me. Necromantic from
Oh,
1987, Night of the Living Dead. It's about a couple who kind of get their kicks by having sex with corpses. And they're like ambulance chasers in a way, like, hey, let's go find this corpse. But there's a scene with it. I mean, I wrote about this for the newspaper at the college I was teaching at the time for good Valentine's Day movies to watch together as a couple for good first date movies.
good for
And
you,
there's a
buddy.
scene,
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah. There's the scene where they dig at this corpse out of the ground, and it's quite decayed. And of course, there's no penis on this corpse, so the woman just sticks a pipe right down there, and then, but don't worry, they have safe sex because she puts a condom over the pipe. This is fucking disturbing. Like Jesus fucking Christ, what is wrong with you people? And necromantic. Yeah, just really disturbing stuff, and stuff that will haunt you. But great death scene though at the end.
Hmm.
Where there's a suicide scene. I come blood. That's where we get the cannibal corpse. I come blood. And then just I think every bit as bad and violent and more disturbing, more viscerally disturbing, The Burning Moon,
Mm.
1992. Just fucking horrifying. This
We got through 15 minutes of it, and we were traumatized so badly. I think was that the time we
No, no,
watched
that
something
was that
like the
was
next.
that was Traces of Death.
Oh,
We
Trace.
had to cut. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
this was quite disturbing. It's a slow burn, but the scene where the guys, there's like a dream sequence, or not really, but goes to hell, and I mean it's like Hellraiser, the kind of bondage, sadomasochism, torture.
Hellraiser on meth, man. It's so
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
disturbing.
exactly. Lots of like barbed wire ripping people, people in boxes being tortured and devoured, and then the one scene where the
Breaking
person was,
limbs.
yeah, limbs are being broken off, and the scene like where the person was being, the legs were just on a machine where it just kept on spreading them and spreading them apart to where the person just splits open between, and all the entrails just gush out. I'm like, fuck this.
Oh my god.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it will change you. There's a lot of crazy shit in Germany. Just really, really super disturbing
Yeah.
horror. And I know from what I gather, there was a whole other genre of horror where they mix like hardcore pornography and gore, like
Oh my
horror,
god.
like, yeah, porno,
Oh,
horror porn. I'm like, no, no, no,
dude,
no,
I'm
no,
good.
fucking no.
There's
I do
lines that
not
don't need to
want
be
that.
crossed.
Yeah. I I don't want to go there. I'd rather watch clown porn. That's fine. Yeah, sure. I'll watch a couple clowns fuck themselves silly. That's okay. Um, but
Uh,
yeah, yeah. And there are others. I think another notable mention, I'm trying to remember because I know I watched it. Good Night Mommy, from 2014. I think it's
oh
about the
yeah, I
kid.
watched
Yeah,
it with you.
yeah. That was really, really kind of creepy.
Yep.
It's about was it
The
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 boy
two
thinks,
boys, the mother comes home from the hospital, but
yeah, and
there's
they
like
think it's not the
that's
mother,
the
right? That's not
yeah
our mom. Yeah,
yeah and
and then they plot to kill her, I think, or at least
yeah
tie her down and find out what's going on.
yeah
Yeah,
so,
it,
yeah
it's
that
it
was
is.
interesting story as well because something
Yes,
different, something fresh.
right. It wasn't excessively gory, but still very intense, psychologically intense.
Yeah,
But not like Burning Moon necromantic, not gory like that. That's just fucked up.
fucked
Um,
up.
yeah, just crazy stuff. But I think I mean, that's everything I have on my list. I mean, again, there are more. We didn't cover all of them, of course, but there's a good overview of some really, really fun, world horror. And if you're not one who's ever watched anything from other countries as far as horror movies, you definitely give it a try. I mean, there's so much good stuff out there, and it will save you from watching some of the garbage and schlock that keeps on being turned out. And God forbid we have another fucking Halloween movie or another Saw movie, or Friday 13th. It's like, oh, well, the first 13 movies were good. Let's do a 14th. Like, really? Do we
Yeah,
really need another one of these? But what I see in a lot of the foreign horror films, and maybe people who there think the same, like people who live in Japan, like, oh God, another J horror, really, or another horror. It wouldn't be called J horror. Um, they might be feeling the same way that we do about our stuff. But compared to the stuff we have, it's a lot of really fresh and new takes. Part of that's because the culture
right.
view looks at ghosts differently, and life and death differently, and haunting differently. And there's so many cultural sensibilities that come to play in these horror films. That's what makes it fresh and interesting, because as an outsider to these cultures, it's like getting a little window into what's going on. But uh, good horror is good horror, and I'm happy
Agreed.
wherever it comes from. Doesn't matter to me. I just want a compelling story, and I want something that's going to move me and make me feel something. It doesn't have to necessarily be gory. Gore is fine, but I don't want that to be the showcase. I want there to be something
Right.
substantial, and you are going to get that oftentimes with the foreign horror films. You're going to get the story and something that's compelling, and you're probably going to get a lot of gore too.
Yeah, yeah, agreed, folks. Give it a shot. Give some of these that we've give you some ideas, give you some mentions. We described some of them to you, but yeah, give it a really and some of them are absolutely terrifying.
Yeah,
And they will stick with you for a minute. So,
that's right.
but give it a shot because it's worth it. Supporting some of these other and tremendous actors, actresses, it's just supporting not only that but just tremendous. Like I said, I'm very impressed lately with it. I want to watch some more Indonesian because I've been really impressed
Yes,
with that.
yes,
Korean, we already we've
yeah.
loved for a while, but I'm just like I'm really impressed with both those countries itself and what their output has been and the types of stories that they're delivering. So
Yeah, this was my first year. Last year was my first foray into Indonesian horror, and the same thing. There's a couple more of the Indian horror that I want to get to, and so there's some other films out there that I want to look at, and so I'm kind of excited to continue experimenting and looking what's coming out there, to seeing some really fun horror. We both love the stuff that we're getting out of the Northern Europe, and we both love the stuff that's coming out of Japan. But yeah, there's some really exciting horror films, and so yeah, can't go wrong. Try it. You'll like it. So, hey, anything else we got to say, or are we done?
I think we're finished up here.
I think we're done. Hey, you can find Heavy Metal Horror on unsaneradio.com. Listen to full episodes or download to your device. You can find us on Facebook, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. On Instagram, look for Montag Lewis, one word. Our YouTube page, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. If you're watching, that's where you're at. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you know someone who'd like our show, tell them about us. This has been Montag, Master of Illusion.
Chop top.
And you've been watching and listening to Heavy Metal.
Or
Horror.
This is Doug Helvering, and you have been listening to Heavy Metal Horror, the best podcast that you've never heard before.